Cloud. All right, Don, we are recording. What are we talking about tonight?
Okay. First of all, we want to welcome all the new people, and don't be afraid to ask questions. We're all here to learn from one another, and we got people that's talking about different type of treatments. I want to talk about the splits and stuff. I had one of my students, David. He's here tonight. He actually made the splits, and I was there just kind of supervising. And it was done within a half an hour after a storm passed here. So he was a brave soul. And to give you an update on that, because I hear people saying, well, they don't know how they're going to last the fall. I got news for people. I've already sold 4 nukes. We made 12 splits. I sold 4 of those nukes already. And I've gotten 40 some cells from those. So I'm setting up more boxes. And on the splits that David made, I add 2 frames or 2.5 frames of brood to it with a laying queen. So I moved them out. My philosophy is split. I don't believe in too much in walk-away splits because you lose darn near 5 weeks. From the minute you walk away, you've got 16 days before you're going to get a decent queen. And if you have weather like we're having now, it's been raining, so that could get you another 10 days wait. And then it's going to take 21 days from that point before you're going to have any brood hatch. So sometimes you're looking right at 2 months on a walk-away. To me, it's just more common sense and money-wise to just keep them in a 5-frame box and let them get crowded because it's not high-tech. Bees know what they're doing. They only do 2 things. No matter what anybody wants to tell you, you could write dozens of books what bees do. 2 fundamental things: multiply, store honey. When they're crowded, they make queen cells. So instead of listening to some people that the queen cell's here on the frame, it's down there on the frame, it's up there on the frame, you listen to all that stuff, scrape them off, throw them on the ground. Now, there's a lot of people that do that stuff. How many people are actually going to think about it and scrape off a $100 bill and throw it on the floor or light their smoker up with $200 bills? I mean, that split that David made, there was already a bunch of splits. I mean, a bunch of cells on it. And a lot of them frames came from 3 medium boxes. And some of those frames had anywhere from 5 to 10, some maybe 15 queen cells. So a smart, wise person takes a knife and cuts a cell off of each one of those and makes 15 splits from each frame. Now, I'm sure David can put his 2 cents in on it and can verify. There's a lot of people think a lot of this is smoke and mirrors up here. Everything is, edited and done. This is what actually happens up here. And I look the students do as much of the work as they possibly can. I'm going to show you what to do, point out what you're doing right and wrong, and I'm going to sit on my seat there. I'm going to watch you work. That's what I'm famous for. And people are talking about Hop Guard and other treatments there. I get so many samples from many different distributors of everything. I personally use Hop Guard, and on hives that you could basically go out there half naked and work the hive, and they wouldn't bother you, seemed very irritable for at least 3 to 4 days. So that's only my opinion on what I've seen. There's a lot of treatments out there. I try to stay as much possible with a natural treatment. Basically, feed wintergreen, spearmint in your feed in your fall and your spring. And by feeding wintergreen, they use that to feed the baby bees and the larvae. So your mites are less likely to reproduce in the cells. Then again, using small cells another way. So all these little things together will help do your mite work. Now, I know there's a lot of new people here, so I'm going to kind of ask anybody out there, you got any questions pertaining to bees? We'll try to answer your question. And don't be bashful.
Chris is going to be first up. Let's see. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll hear you.
Yeah, hi. It's nice to be a part of your chat. I was listening to your chats like for the past half a year on the way to my Bee Club training courses. I'm really proud to be here, guys. So I've got several questions. So I'll go like step by step. The first one is, Don, how are you overwintering your hives? I know you're using boxes, right? What sort of temperatures you get over there? Just
We
tell me a little
have
bit.
a wide range of temperatures. We go down sometimes to single digits. Everything that's in an 8-frame single or an 8-frame double in September, providing I got the students here to move the boxes, I break a 8-frame single down into 3 splits or 4 splits. If it's a double, I make 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And they overwinter good. I
Good.
basically like to overwinter in 5-frame boxes in singles with a hive top feeder.
And like, do you cover them? Do you pack them up in
Nope.
some way?
Nope.
No, just leaving those there.
I've experimented around trying to insulate them and everything else. And if you get the hive too closed up, the bees will sweat in there and you'll get a moisture problem. And then the bees will die from the moisture.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's nice to know. Yeah, I used this was my just first winter. I wintered the beehives, and because I had very little knowledge, I bought those poly hives.
Mm-hmm.
So I just overwintered in them. Luckily, the winter wasn't harsh, so I'm talking Celsius, we went down to minus 15 degrees, minus 20 degrees at some point, but the winter was very short, and I had seemingly have survived all 4 hives, and they're booming right now, whereas a lot of people that's still using those wooden boxes, they seem to have a lot of losses.
Well, a lot of it depends on the beekeeper. I had a bunch of boxes. I basically bought a man out several years ago. He had some of the early plastic boxes with a lot of plastic lids, inner covers, bottom boards, all that stuff. I'm not a big person on plastic. I sold it for just to get it off the yard. Because sometimes you run across deals where you can buy somebody out there, just get disgusted.
Right. Thank you, Don. I'll let someone else ask a question.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody else got their hand up yet. Paula, did you have a question? You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Sure, I can ask a question. So Don, I'm in Massachusetts, so we get a little bit more of a winter up here than maybe you guys do down in Atlanta area. But so we're just now coming into spring, and our bees are just starting to sort of wake up, so to speak. Our maple trees are just starting to bloom today. So when would you recommend starting to do splits? As soon as I see queen cells in my hives or queen cups in my hives, just split those off and put them in a 2-frame or a 3-frame?
Well, I used to live in Ohio, so I'm familiar with your weather, and I made splits up there, but I try to do things where the deck is stacked in my favor. To do a walkaway split up there, I wouldn't recommend. If you're bidding your hives, are you running 8-frame stuff or 10-frame?
10-frame.
All right, your 10-frame are a little more difficult to manage, but I would watch your frames. Are you running wood and wax, or do you run plastic frames and inserts?
Wood and wax.
Okay, if you're running wood and wax, watch the frames. Once you start seeing you're getting a little bit more drones that are starting to be populated and they're capped, from that point on, you can figure around 3 weeks, you're going to start having swarms or swarm cells because the box is starting to get crowded. Now, if you're trying to build numbers, it goes back to that same thing. The bees do 2 things: keep them in a single and put the feed to them. And I don't believe a whole lot in doing the pollen substitute. I mean, right now, when it's not raining, we're bringing a lot of pollen in. Stand in front of your hive. If you see them bringing pollen in, they're bringing enough in.
Yep.
But if you start putting pollen patties in there, you're encouraging a lot of small hive beetles.
Yeah, I don't have any trouble. I know everyone's going to curse me. I've never seen a small hive beetle in any of my hives. So
if you need education, I'll send you some.
okay, everyone can send me their samples, but I'm very lucky, I guess, but maybe it's just the soil that I'm on or who knows what. But yeah, I took my pollen off. I had some pollen patties on back in early March, but as soon as I started seeing them bring pollen in, I pulled those off just because there's no use wasting money.
Do you have a lot of hives or you just have a few?
I have 14.
All right. Do you have somebody helping lift this stuff for you?
Oh, no, I lift it myself.
No. I grew up on 10-frame stuff. I used to run all deeps, 6 and 7 high. That's why I have back problems. Your 10-frame, you have more problem building up fast because if you start with new frames, new wax, you have to take the outside frames, keep reversing them to the middle to get them.
Yep.
I would go with 8-frame or even the 5-frame. A lot of people like 5-frame because they build super fast and you can make splits faster off them. I've done videos on 8-frame outproduces a 10-frame, and a 5-frame outproduces the 8-frame. So if you confine them and let the bees make the cells, as long as you got cells, get a good knife and be sure if you cut one cell that you wash it each time between. If you get wax buildup on the blade, it's going to drag the wax, and if you flex newer comb, it flexes back and forth and you damage the queens. I don't know if David's seen the twins. I had twins out there that was 2 cells together. They're too close to cut apart, and I just cut a plug out around the cell, at least 3/4 of an inch around on the outside of your queen cell. Do an inch if you're not sure, and do short strokes and cut it out and just place it in the hive. And all you need is a frame of bees, a frame of honey, and that's it. You don't need new brood. You don't need nothing else. That way you risk less and get more back.
Yeah. And do you put them in a 5-frame then, or you put them in a 3-frame then?
I use mostly 5-frame, and all my 5-frames, if you talk to students that have been here, just about every 5-frame out there's only got 1, 2, or 3 frames. And when I get them to where they're strong enough to sell, then they have 5, because I can learn to shave off a minute or a half a minute on each box I'm working. So at the end of the day, it adds up. So you not have to pull that one frame and set it on the outside and run the risk of a queen falling off. So you just slide them to the side. You can go through a hive in 30 seconds. You're through a hive or a nuke box.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you're running different size boxes, but are you thinking about if 14 hives, you should be able at the point right now start selling?
Yeah, I have 2 nukes that somebody gave me some queens, so I started them on a couple 2-frame boxes, and I just moved them into 5 frames last week. I just let the queen get out and start laying. As soon as she started laying, I put them into 5s. I'm going to sell those, but then I want to do a bunch of splits this summer. Well, this spring, as soon as I see queen cells, to start selling some more. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people that come and they get different ideas. If you're going to start selling nukes, do both, medium and deeps. Some people, they got in their mind only do mediums because they have bad backs. You're going to have people drive up your driveway and want 5 or 10 of the opposite of what you do. So I run both, and I get the same price for either one, mediums or deeps.
Yeah, I have mediums. I run mediums for my honey supers, so that wouldn't be a problem. I just don't have any. I could use a deep nuke to run mediums in. That's no big deal.
You're from Massachusetts. They got a closed area up there, so you have to have that health. Be sure you have your health certificate.
Yep. Yeah, you can run. You
because
can
when I ship
inside Massachusetts without a health certificate.
Right. Yeah,
but anything across the border, which is easy up here in New England, as you know, somebody from Connecticut, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire drives in, then you need a health certificate.
Yeah, well, see, I have health certificates for all mine, but Massachusetts, and I think there's 2 other states that you have to get the actual printout, or not the printout, when the inspector comes out, he fills out that long form. Yep. You have to have a copy of that, because I run into that problem when we shipped nukes to Massachusetts, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Yep. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, no, lucky I'm good friends with the state bee inspector, so he just lives down the road, so makes it real convenient.
Well, tell him you know me. He probably knows me.
He probably does. So, but yeah, he runs about 150 hives. So,
yeah. You got any more questions?
No, not right now. I'll let somebody else ask a question. Okay. But thank you.
Okay, don't be bashful.
All right. Paula, we're going over to Ohio here. We got Greg Burns. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey guys, up north here. It's the time of year where it's nice out and folks are starting to get out into their hives, which means, unfortunately, a lot of folks are finding all their dead outs, and it's probably the same story everywhere. But at least up north, most of our bees come from Georgia. There is some stuff from Ohio. A lot of stuff comes from the almonds out in California, but it's the time of year where everyone has a lot of bad things to say about southern Georgia bees, and I just wanted to throw this out there that I literally have a 5-frame medium box that overwintered, There was nothing special about it. No insulation, no quilt box, no nothing. I added some dry sugar on top, and it's probably going to be one of my most productive hives this year. Since we went down to 5-frame and 8-frame boxes, I have been seeing something that I wanted to share in case folks are looking at maybe going to all 8s and 5s. We went in split with about half of them were 8s, half of them were 5s. We went in with a lot of single 8s, single 5s, and also doubles, all or mediums, of course. And what it looks like is that when I compare the 8-frame boxes with the 5-frame boxes, the 8-frame boxes have the same size colony as the 5s do this time of year. The only problem with that is the 8s have twice as many dead bees on the bottom, and they've used twice as much honey to still only have the same size cluster as the 5s do. So what that tells me is that doing a better job on matching frames of bees versus frames of honey, when you put them, at least for me in my context in my yard, putting them in a 5-frame box, I'm for number one, I'm wasting way less honey, and there's a whole lot less dead bees in the bottom of the box, which outside of the killing critters aspect of it, there's less moisture, there's less work they have to do to pull out dead bees. So it really seems like there is really something to the thing that Don's been saying for probably all these years that folks are just now catching up on, but trying to getting some of these boxes back down to some of these natural bee tree sizes, at least in my context, really looks like there is something to it, and it seems to be proven out. All these Georgia bees from Don's yard, they didn't care at all about the -19 polar vortex. And right now I've got drones walking out all over the place. I got cap drones like crazy, all kinds of pollen. They're even bringing nectar in, and on 2 of the hives, I've even added supers. So for anyone that wants to badmouth Georgia bees, I mean, I don't know where you're getting them from, but I'm definitely on board with my Georgia bees that I got from Don. And I know there's a lot of folks that are listening that are getting bees from Don this year. So I think it's going to be a good year for everyone. And I think when it comes to winter losses and folks' opinion, it's kind of like these opinions are kind of like armpits. Everyone has 2 of them, and most of the time they don't stink. But that's just the way that it goes. So I just wanted to give you a shout out, Don, on your Georgia bees do just fine in Ohio here when they see these -19 temps. So
I have people that give testimony like that all over, and I know there's a lot of people that watch my videos and stuff. I don't promote my stuff. I promote information. Whether you buy bees from me or not, talk good about me, talk bad about me, I'm still going to share the same information, because there's no super, person out there that knows it all. I'm still learning every single day. So all I'm trying to get across to people is you don't have to spend a fortune to make a bunch of money. And what I'm trying to show my students and the ones that come here and see, I'm basically, and I'm going to do my whole speech out there, my presentation in Texas, as a commercial beekeeper, how to get in it, make money, not how to do honey and all this other stuff. I'm going in to show you how to take a package, double your money in 5 days. No one's showing you that. And I'm sure that David can testify to that. He's seeing how we're doing it here. And Steve is another one. I mean, it's totally different than what people out there are preaching to you. And whether you buy the stuff from me or not, that's strictly up to you. I'm showing you, giving you the roadmap. All you have to do is follow it.
well, thanks for all your work, Don. It means a lot to a lot of us beginners and folks getting off. You've saved us decades of learning the hard way, so thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, over to Jay Gilmer. Go ahead, Jay. Nothing but static, Jay. Nope. We lost it.
He might be watching YouTube at the same time, getting feedback, getting double the information.
We're still hearing him. Let me see.
He must.
There he goes. Jay, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now, Don?
Yeah, that
we
works.
hear you now.
How's this?
Yep,
Yep.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. I just had to take my headset off the phone. About 3 weeks ago is when I did my splits, and I had talked to you, Don, that I had I had split my bees on a Saturday, and then I didn't get my queens in until the following Thursday. And I'm just gonna kind of tell you what's going on with it. I made 30 splits up front, and got my bees in, got those put in, my queens, and when I started going through them, putting the queens in, the next week I went through them real good and started finding some of the queen cells, which you had told me would probably show up, splitting them so early. So I was able to make another 6 splits off those. So that it worked out. But I did have to watch for my queen cells coming in because I had pulled them. So I'm just going to give you an update on that.
Good, good. Glad it's all working out for you.
So,
Okay.
Split.
What was that, Jay?
Said I'm just trying to watch them every day to catch more splits. Time I can see a queen cell, I'm going to try to split it. Make a little money on it.
Well, that you can do.
So I'll let some others step in. I really didn't have a question yet.
Okay.
All right. Over to, where'd he go? Over to Steve Dunn. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Don. Hey.
Hey.
This is probably 100% support for everything that Greg said. Most of my 5 frames came out of winter a whole lot better shape than my 10 frames did.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have learned that Don's way is the smart way. In the last month, I've made 2 trips that way. I mean, coming all the way from Texas, that's 2,000 miles round trip. I got back this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning from picking up packages from Don. I know I said it again on the last chat, but if you ever have the opportunity to get out there and do some training with Don, you're going to work, but it's well worth it. You'll come out of there. You won't sleep the first 2 days because your head's going to be spinning with all the information that you get. But as far as the Georgia bees, I come from bees were in Texas, so if I'll gladly give anybody my Texas bees and trade for Georgia bees. That's all I had.
Okay.
Okay. Over to Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
You're good.
All right. Hi, Don. How are you?
Okay.
Just give you an update. We spoke a little bit. I had that one hive that swarmed, I think, 3-4 times, 7 swarms altogether in the yard. Fortunately, caught them all. And I got back a shocking amount of mated queens here last week. Out of the 2 big hives that the ones swarmed multiple times out of, they were, I guess it was 2 nights ago, you know, the normal behavior at night. And then all of a sudden, one night I looked out and the front of both of the hives were completely covered with bees. I went out there the next day and looked, and I guess she brought a small army back with her after her flight.
Yeah.
An amazing amount of bees, almost like it doubled in size overnight.
Right.
On my honey supers, I know that in your yard you drill a hole to give them an entrance up top, make coming and going easier for them.
That's vent holes in the back, and then the front we do the 1 1/8 under the handhold, yeah, for ventilation.
So do you do an entrance and an exit for them in the super?
I put a hole in every box. If I got 6 boxes high, 6 holes, 1 under each handhold all the way up.
Okay, because
if there's too much, they'll seal it up.
Okay. And what was the next one? The beetle blasters for the hive beetles. Do you put those just at the top? You know, the ones that rest inside the frame? I've been using this. I use the CD case at the bottom too, but I've got one yard. My yard here is not so bad. My out yard in Powder Springs is just a constant battle with them.
Well, David was up here last week, and he was going through that one, made all them splits. And David will tell you how many beetle blasters we use. You know, to me, I have not got one beetle blaster. We averaging 1 to 3 beetles maybe to a box. So David, get in there and tell him about your splits and how you acted and what you seen. That way he'll get an idea what's going on here.
Go ahead, David.
Am I unmuted?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've gone, I know right now I can't even count how many hives Don has out there. It's probably 50 or 60 that we're actively working. I think I've seen 5 hive beetles the whole time that I've been there. And I'm there once or twice a week. I'm fortunate as to live fairly close to Don. And every time I go, I'm putting a little bit, it's like a piece of a puzzle that just starts fitting together. And, you know, I can see me being there for a long time before the puzzle's complete. I drive home and have to think about it on the way home, and I lay in bed and think about the thing, probably bored my wife with the things that I've learned that day. But everything I learned one day seems to dovetail into the next day and the next day. When Don suggested that we split up a hive that hadn't been worked since last fall, and we made all those splits, I sat there and did it, and he told me what to do. And it was almost like you weren't even doing it, because there was so much going on. And then when you got through and you looked at all these hives, and we started, you know, putting them up on the hive stands and counting them, it happened so fast and seamless that it's kind of hard to believe. And I've been back monitoring, and we worked some of them just the other day, and they are healthy and happy and doing well. I haven't seen hive beetles. I've seen things happen in a bee yard that I would not have believed had I not done it myself. The most I think I've learned from Don is when we pull up a couple of cement blocks and sit in the bee yard and talk for about an hour. It's a real good time. And also, I've met so many folks from around the country that drop in. I met Al Taylor the other day. I've met Steve. I've met several people on the chat that have come through purchasing bees or spent a day or 2 or 5 in the yard, and that's been great to make some contacts out there. But I'm on the chats just about every time. I don't say much because I can pick Don's brain Monday morning, and he has to tell me some things more than once. but I do recommend, if anybody can get through Georgia and spend a day or 2 with him. And I honestly don't know how you can pack it in a day or 2, but any time that you get, it's worthwhile.
That was an unpaid testimonial.
It's fun, man. I have a good time.
All right. Anything else, Bill?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Over to Robbie. Go ahead, Robbie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Go ahead.
All right. I want to thank you, Don. The day I called you, when I was shaking the bees, and I was all by myself. I got a package of bees out by looking at the can. I made one mistake. I should have sprayed it really good, shook them, then sprayed it, then shook them. But I got stung on my ankles, but it's okay. But the next morning, I was so stiff, I had to go to ER and get it fixed. But it's okay now. My queen got accepted. I got a couple of frames drawn out. I didn't inspect the hive real thorough yet, so I'm going to do that next Friday or Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing in pollen somewhat. My question is, do you think it's by the time I open up the hive by Friday, Saturday, I should see brood, right?
You should see brood already. The queen should be out at about 3 or 4 days after you put the package in. If you pull the cork out of the candy in.
I did.
Okay, and then see that's why I just done when Steve Chen was down here. He wanted to see how we did put our packaging, and if you watch the video, I've done probably 6 videos on installing packages different ways. Basically, you bump the package down, put a little sugar water spray on them, mist them, and you can get the package opened up, take the can out, reach in the second move. First move, bump it down, and turn it upside down, get your can out, then reach in the hole, pull the queen cage out, put that piece of wood back on. That shouldn't take more than 30 to 40 seconds. And then you spray them one more time, turn the box upside down and bang the side twice, drop it in front of the hive, they're done. He did that video where I was in and out of that box probably within a minute and a half. It's smooth, it's easy. But, you know, I put hundreds of packages in, and I've done videos on how to show the easiest way. There's no more easier way than that there. There's several people I watched the video, and there's a guy who got a video of how to put a package in. And at 7 minutes, he still hadn't got the can out of the package. So people that's putting stuff like this up gets other people so confused when they make a simple job so difficult. But I thought that video might help you. That's why I mentioned to you, look at that video and show you exactly how to do that.
Right. I got them in a nuke box. It's vented 3/8 a hole in the back.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to get them crowded, then split.
Well, it'll take you about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and you're going to notice they're crowded. George, I don't see him in here tonight. George has got some videos up. He bought packages from me. They're actually honey bound and full of brood. Just a little over 3 weeks. He bought those packages a little over 3 weeks ago. And now he's taking packages on these nukes now, and he's making 4 splits off of each package right now. And then he'll go back in 3.5 weeks and split those 4 more times each.
All right, I'm in Maryland. My temperatures right now is lowest 70s for the highs and lowest 60s, upper 50s at night.
Well, see, you can't split them as quick as we can down here. We're a little bit ahead of you. But make sure, I've done videos and I mentioned don't do many splits until after Easter. We put some queen cells in about 5 to 7 days ago, and some of them did okay and some of them didn't, because we've had several nights where it's dropped down to, I think it was 40 this morning when they got up, and we've had a few nights down into the 30s. So when it drops down below 55, if you don't have enough bees in your split, you're going to lose brood.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Over to Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep, we'll hear you.
So my next question is, what's the best way to make the split? So when you use the 5-frame boxes, how hard do you build them, or do you just make off the single deep, make splits off
Well,
those?
you have to think, what do you want to do? Are you wanting to make a lot of hives, a lot of numbers, or are you wanting to make some honey?
Numbers.
If you want to make numbers, put the feed to them. Really feed them good and keep them in a single. Now, you can take a package, and I think last year I kept track, putting packages in the earliest, which would be March 1st. I could take that one package, the original package now, and split it 30 times before November. But, you know, I've got experience. You could take a package and easily split it 5 times in one season.
So what sort of, so if you're talking splitting the singles, what sort of frames do you use when you say 4 splits?
Well, I use a frame of honey. You don't need brood. See, you crowd your hive. When you have a cell, a queen cell that's sealed, you don't need brood. All you need is bees to keep it warm or to keep it cool. That's all you need. That's why, yeah, people that do walk-away splits, if the temperature drops on them, they lose 2 or 3 frames of brood. The next morning, they go out and they see all these little white grubs and half-developed bees. That's chill brood. That's what happens when you make it with not enough bees.
So basically, to make my splits out of the single, I need at least 4 frames of honey.
No, you don't need 4 frames of honey. You need 1 frame of honey. When we make our splits this time of the year, we have a sealed queen cell, a ripe queen cell. It's going to hatch within 1 day or 2 days. We put that up against the side. We put a frame of honey against it, and then we shake another frame of bees in it, and we don't close them up. We let the field bees fly back. The nurse bees will keep that cell warm. Now, if you have 1 frame that's got 2 or 3 cells on it, and you got some open brood on that, and you put that in a 5-frame box, when the temperature drops below 55, the bees will abandon that brood, open brood or closed, it will abandon it. They will all cluster around that queen cell because that is nature, keeping survival going. So that's why putting open brood and sealed brood when you're making queens is a waste of time and money. If you cut a frame that's got queen cells, if you cut it out, you can make 3 or 4 splits with a lot less bees and have better luck.
So basically, all those uncapped brood, you leave it in the parent hive.
Right. Yeah. You only take the sealed brood, and see, all you need is food for them, and you need enough bees around the cell to keep it warm or to keep it cool. Because if you make splits in June and July and the temperature gets 80, 85, you need enough bees to keep it cool. And if the temperature drops, you have to have enough bees there to keep it warm. They regulate that temperature. And if you're going to graft or put cells, even if you cut cells, you can make wood protector cages where you can stand them up, cut them and stand them up. We buy cell protectors, and when we graft, we put 200 or 300 or 500 cells in an incubator. As soon as we put them in the starter and they're sealed, they don't need bees no more. We put them in an incubator, put 300 or 400 of them in at a time. $50, you buy that Tractor Supply. It might cost a little more. My son's got a digital readout that goes into that styrofoam $50 incubator, and they puts a little pan of water in to keep the humidity right. I mean, a person can sit there and graft 500 cells out in 30 minutes, and you don't need a lot of hives. You don't even need hives to put them in. Let people know you got them. They come, we sell them $5 a piece. As fast as you can have extras. You got nothing out there risks. And people sit there and they do 1,000 cells in 40 minutes. I mean, that's $5,000. Who pays that? And you don't need all them boxes. You need the boxes only if you're going to mate queens, to sell mated queens.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do once you build up the numbers. So when I mentioned the 4 frames of honey, I meant if I were to make a split out of a 1 single, I need, for the new 4 splits, I need a honey frame of each.
You need
hive.
1 honey frame. Well, if you're going to run mediums and run deeps, you put a medium frame in there. You can ask any of my students. Sometimes they think I'm crazy. I got a deep box out there with a medium frame in it, or I got a deep box with 2 medium frames in it. Whatever I got is what I'm going to use.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you hear me, Don?
Hey, we hear you.
I'll let you know all of the packages made it back safe, and all the queens were fine.
Did you have to buy your new GPS?
Yes, I do.
You headed to Missouri, and then you turn around and head to North Carolina. Was you sightseeing?
I guess I was, but yeah, when I looked and said Murphy, 19 miles, I knew I was in trouble.
Well, I do the same thing. That's why I keep my GPS going.
Well, the wife says we'll get a GPS next time. I got all the packages installed, checked them this morning. All had done fine but 1, and I guess they didn't like that queen, so I went out and tied her up there to the plum tree with all the blooms and gained about a pound of bees on her and started another place, so everything's doing fine.
All right. When the queen was dead in 1 package?
No, all the queens were fine.
Oh.
They just, I guess they didn't like her. They drifted off to another box, left 1 queen.
Oh, well, sometimes you can get an extra queen. Because when you start shaking 400 or 500 packages a day, you're moving so fast out there. You know, that's why we try to, that's why I ask if you want to check them. Bump them down and check your queens. Make sure they're all alive. Because sometimes out of, 100 to 500 packages, you might have 1 or 2 bad queens or dead queens. Or sometimes you have a package where there's an extra queen in the package. Because, you know, you're moving through a bee yard pretty fast shaking packages. You don't have that luxury of 30 minutes to shake a package. You're shaking 200 and 300 packages an hour.
Yeah, well, everything worked pretty good. I just took the queen and stuck her out there in the yard, and there's enough wandering bees through all them packages. Give her another pound of bees hanging on her, and I just put her in another box.
Yeah, well, when you do that, put a frame of brood with it or a frame of honey, and that'll hold them.
I did.
Well, you know a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I might have learned that from you. I'm not sure. But everything went fine except the directions. I took 16 hours for an 11-hour trip.
Well,
both directions, so I'm still recouping.
Main thing you got there.
But the GPS is on order. We're going to make that trip again. We'll make sure we get it down there a little differently. But I appreciate it. Everything looks pretty good. Thank you.
First thing Dennis said, I got to take pictures of all these packages. And here he gets his truck half loaded, and then he says, it's time to take that picture now.
Forgot all about it.
Well, we'll remind you.
All righty. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Up to Greg. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey guys, a bunch of us Don students, including Dennis, are going to be picking up packages and nukes here real soon. More so than what to do right, I was wondering if Don or Dennis had any recommendations on things to that you maybe have done wrong that should pass on some hard lessons learned transporting bees. If there's any like real big, definitely don't do this kind of a thing, that might help some of us along on our transport.
Well, the biggest thing that I see people coming up with now is not so bad, but black trucks. People love black trucks. So when we loading packages on black trucks when it's hot, we have to throw bags of ice in there to keep the bees cool. So if you're going to get a load of bees, anything on a pickup truck up to 50, 75 is safe. When you push 100 to 125 on a pickup truck, you're getting them too tight. Now, Al come down with SUVs, and we put about 50 in each of his. That is about the limit. I mean, I have seen people come here and haul 75, 80 in the same type of vehicle. But remember, the more bees you put in there, they develop a lot of heat. And if you don't have a good air conditioner, you'll overheat them bees. So if you're going to do a load, like we have people come here, get 100, 500 packages at a time, best to use a trailer, open top trailer, and we'll fix them in that trailer where they don't move around. David's got some experience on doing that. I try to get all my students to learn how to package bees so that you can transport them safely and, you know, keep them alive. Because my main thing is when I teach people on queens, you can make the best queen in the world, but if you can't get it to the next state alive and healthy, you ain't made nothing. So you have to learn how to get this stuff to your customer in good shape or you ain't going to have no customers soon. That's all I can say about that part of it.
So if you had about maybe 100 packages and 20 nukes, a regular short bed pickup truck and a little 8-foot trailer would be
probably be good. Yeah.
Okay.
I would watch how you loaded your nukes. I wouldn't put nukes on top of packages because heat's rising, and you know you can ask people that's hauled them. On a standard pickup, we try to do 6, maximum 7 to a row. You need 5 to 6 inches between your packages because they will develop a lot of heat. And if they go through a heat before your customer gets them, then you're running risk.
Okay, so maybe pack 20 nukes in the back of a short bed Chevy and 7,500 packages and towed behind the trailer.
I think we've put, I think 30 nukes is about the limit safely that I would haul. And we put strips. We anchor them down so they don't move around. We run strips. You hauled packages out of here before, haven't you?
Nukes primarily, but they've been crammed in the back of a RV or in with the kids. You know.
Didn't we put strips between your boxes?
Not the last couple of years, but there was only like a half dozen or so. 70 times. So
people that get nukes that haul them, we usually put, I think it's 4 nukes to a row, and then we put strips between them and we stack the next row so they have air circulation.
Okay. Well,
when you haul nukes, you can't put them side by side because you have a heat transference.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Don. We'll see you real soon.
Okay.
Dennis, do you have something to add to that?
No. I traveled at night. Don helped me break all the side. I had a camper shell with both sides come up, the end would come up. And we just left her open a few inches. But by the time I got to North Carolina, we had them closed up because it's way cooler. A question I had, Don, if we was to transfer some nukes, would you put a screen top on them? Would that give them a little best, maybe better traveling?
I wouldn't use a screen top. I would use a lid. If you're going to haul them a long distance, I would put, you know, like what you would put for a canning lid, a 2.5 or 2 3/4 hole. That's how we ship them in the mail. We put, depending on where they're going, we normally put two, one in the front and one in the back, and then we got an 1.5 inch hole in the bottom of the box so that you get an upward draft. If they're going to be way out west or Washington, Oregon State, Montana, then we put 3 2 3/4 holes on the top, and we screen them from underneath so that when the lid goes on, you don't want to put the screen on the outside, either on the front of the box or on the top, because if another box goes across and it catches that screen, it rips it off. The post office doesn't care. The bees get out and they'll shrink wrap it. And that's not a good thing.
The last presumably date that you'll have packages, do you have any idea?
Well, right now we're taking orders right now for May, June. We'll probably sell packages up to about the end of July. Okay. I'll have some up to probably October, but usually about mid-June, Steven starts confiscating more packages to go to. He's building up. He's down there doing now, building more yards. In fact, all in boxes, we just bought 1,000 hive boxes and stuff. And I think he took 150 down this weekend to set up another yard. So, you're never going to have enough. He's trying to build up a bunch more yards so he can make a decent living.
I'm taking orders. I want to see how many of them's interested, whether I come down again or not. Depends on, what everybody wants. But I was asking.
I'm sure all you'd have to do is post on my page that you got my bees over there, and you got a price on them, and you're going to have them. People want them.
Yeah, well, I sold everything I wanted to sell this morning. My boy's interested now.
Oh, is he? That's good.
I covered my expenses and some.
Well, that's
made his week's wages this morning by 8:30.
There you go.
So he's interested. We'll see where it goes.
The thing that you can learn here is you can make at least $1,000. That's what, 6 splits a day. I mean, you can walk around blindfolded and stumble around a bee yard and do that. And if you're pushing it and you got a younger guy to help you, you can split 25, make 25 nukes in a daytime. That ain't a problem. And you can sell them as fast as you can make them. Yeah. David's been here, I think, when we sold nukes. I was supposed to have some go out today, but it's been storming. They're coming Monday. But I like to show the customer. I never hand a customer a box. I want to show the queen. I want to show the brood. And always, if you got an order for 10 or 20, have an extra 1 or 2, because for any reason, if the customer finds they don't like the color of that queen, don't like the pattern or anything, that you can get another one. The customer, let them pick what they want. If they're happy, then give it to them. I'd rather have them tell me that they would rather have another box and go home and say, that guy ripped me off, or they give me a dirty looking frame, or this an old frame.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, over to Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Greg and Dennis. I guess yesterday we came back from Georgia to Texas, and on and off we were in and out of rainstorms, anywhere from temperatures from 50 to 75 degrees. We were pulling a 20-foot open top trailer that we put some tarps over, and we used a wireless thermometer to where we could monitor the inside temperature down deep in all the stack of packages. We never saw any temperature change of less than maybe 5 degrees maximum. The way Don stacks and loads everything is pretty efficient, where you really don't have to worry about the temperatures. And the only thing we were worried about is getting stuck in traffic and not being able to move to keep the air circulation going. Mm-hmm. That's all I had.
Okay.
Over to Chris again. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Dan. So my next question is, to raise mated queens, what's your preferred method? Is it queen castle or mini nukes?
A queen castle, you can make queens. It's not an efficient way if you want to make a living. Queen castle is basically for people who run plastic foundation and you can't cut queen cells out. So you put the whole frame in, and then when the first queen hatches out, you move the frame to another queen castle or another compartment. Or your other option is to buy you some cell protectors. And if you got a frame that's got 15 queen cells on it, you push in the cell protector on each one, and then it'll give you a little extra time. Now, you can either cage those virgin queens and then let them come out like you would introduce a mated queen. I personally, and I think David was here when I lit some virgin queens that was walking in my hand. I let them walk into a queenless hive. Or maybe Steve seen me do it here. There's several students watch me do it.
Okay, but do you run the mini nukes at your yard as well, or?
Well, see, I'm running a learning yard here, so I'm teaching on everything. I have to ask the student, what is it that you're trying to do? You want to make honey? Do you want to make bees? And how efficient do you want to be? If you want to be very efficient and you got enough help and you do it full time, a mini nuke is your cheapest profitable way to do it. Because you take a ripe cell, you put it in a mini nuke, and you put a couple of bees in there. That's all it takes. Where a 5-frame box with a queen cell and shake a half a frame of bees in there is good for a man who's got a working job and he wants to work weekends. If for some reason the queen comes back and starts to lay and you get behind, you can throw a 5-frame super on it. You can still make some money that way, but the most efficient way is your mini nuke. So the main thing is build a lot of boxes.
Yeah. No, that's what I was thinking about queen castles, because you can use those full frames in there.
A queen castle is okay. You can run 2 to 3 queen castles if you're doing like a small sideline honey business to where you want to replace maybe 10 or 12 queens a week. But after that, it's not really efficient. You know.
I see. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Don.
Okay. You know, when it comes to area, as far as making a living, I have a couple ladies that are up in their 60s and 169. Now they live on a small little 1/4 acre, and the other one, she lives on 1.5 acres. And they're running mainly 3 8-frame hives, and then they run 200, 250 mini nukes, and they average 100 to 200 queens a week. So you don't need a big area, and you don't need a lot of equipment, and you don't need fancy equipment. You go around to any kind of job site, pick up old Vantech plywood. It doesn't have to be a pretty box to make money.
Okay, over to Virgil and Thunder. Still muted. You got to do it on your end.
Got it.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
We've got a couple hives we want to just use strictly for honey.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm a little bit confused as timing as to when to put our supers on here. We've got everything starting to bloom. We've got dandelions flowered out. All the Bradford pears are flowered now. What should we really look for as far as when to put the supers on?
What are you running, 8-frame, 10 frames, or 5s?
5s.
If you're running all 5s right now, you probably need a second box on them right now.
Yeah.
If you're running 8s, I would say when you're covering 5 frames, 5.5 frames of bees covering the frames, then I would put you a super on it.
Okay.
And I wouldn't recommend putting queen excluders. If you're worrying about honey, I'd just put an extra box on there. When they start to fill that box up, throw another box on.
Yeah,
more bees make more honey.
We stopped the excluders when you said no excluders. We stopped them. But here we've just gotten so many opinions. It's like some are saying don't even think about putting them on until June. You know.
No, you missed it by then. Right now in Georgia, blackberries are blooming now, and we've got a lot of other stuff blooming. Blackberries puts out a lot of honey, and in January and February we start getting red maples and red buds, and some of the pear trees, the Bradford pears and the dogwoods are blooming now. But the main honey flow right now coming up is privet, and it's all budded up. So if it doesn't freeze out in the next 4 to 6 days, I think it's going to start opening up. I had a 5-frame box here, and I think I showed it to David. It was in a 5-frame box. One day he come, and then the following week it was in an 8-frame with 2 supers on it, and the second super was over half full of honey ready. That's how much it's coming in here now. So I set that up to show students. I got some new ones coming in next week. I'll take 2 supers, which are 16 medium frames, and make 16 splits off of one box out there.
Okay. So it's just going to depend on now on how many bees we've got in that box, and just keep them going. And
As long as they're covering all them frames good, you put your second box on.
Okay. Yeah, we've been feeding the heck out of them, and everything seems. But I did screw up something. I don't know what. We had the 110 frame that we had in 2 boxes over the winter. I was going to knock it down, and we didn't get to it, but they made it. They were doing great, and then a week and a half ago, I opened it up to check them, which we did, and the one box, the top box was full of bees, and we saw the queen and everything. So I just eliminated that bottom box, and I put it back with the feeder on it. I went out there the other day. They're all gone. They're just gone. I don't know what I did to upset them, but I wished I hadn't have.
A lot of times when you're running 10-frame stuff and they're up in the top box, usually this time of the year or even 3 weeks ago, you can reverse the boxes.
Yeah.
That's
well, I just eliminated that bottom box because there was nothing in it, and just set it back down.
Did you inspect the hive and you seen the queen and everything in there?
Yeah, she looked great. She was starting to lay. There was plenty of bees.
Was you wearing gloves?
Yeah, but just my thin ones. I didn't pinch her. I watched that real careful that we had her back in there.
Yeah.
But there were no dead bees on the bottom. It's just like they just took off. I don't know, but
that's strange this time of the year. In another month or 6 weeks, it'll be a little more common.
Yeah, there was no other queen cells in. They hadn't started any queen cells or anything, but
did you have any queen cells anywhere?
No.
Because sometimes you can have some swarms from other boxes will pull bees from other boxes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just could kick myself, but I just thought, well, with the temperature changing like it was, it would be less for them to keep warm if they're only had that one box there and the feeder on top.
Yeah.
And whatever it was. Well, I'm just still learning on that one, but I was really worried about. I didn't think I wanted to wait until June to put a super on. I mean,
no, it's way too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I think middle of April is a little bit late to put supers on where you're at if you've got a good, strong box. The main thing is make sure you don't got mites and stuff. Get them treated.
Well, we'd already treated them, everything. No beetles, didn't see any mites, so we're good there. But the weather's just not cooperating well.
It's been bad down here too. We're fighting the weather. Stevens can't get him 2 or 3 of our yards right now. He's got a 4-wheel drive. He gets stuck in it because it's too much water.
Yeah, we've had 2 days of solid rain, and it's back to being cold again. So, hopefully we're going to get down to Greg's place here in the next couple of weeks to see how he's got things going. But that's all we had for now. Thanks, E.
Over to Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hey, Mr. Dennis, you don't need to go out and buy a Garmin. I don't know if you're joking or you're really going to go buy a Garmin. I imagine you must have some kind of smartphone. Just put Google Maps in it. It's free. And just put Google Maps in your phone and you put in Lula, Georgia, and it's just going to pop up and you hit go and it's going to tell you how to get there. And they talk to you. They say, okay, 1,000 meters, turn left. 100 meters, turn left. God damn it, I told you to turn left. So you won't get to North Carolina, see? It works really good. I'd like to make an interactive one where I could talk back to her, though, because... Go ahead.
I got on MapQuest, and the Joker took me through the mountains. So,
yeah, well, 98% of the time, I think it works pretty well. But my wife and I were down in Bangkok trying to get to my nephews. She had me go like 1,000 meters and turn left, and we went 300 meters, and we turned left. made 4 lefts, you know. And guess what? After you make 4 lefts, you're right back where you started. We did that twice. So
Beautiful
90
country. If I had the daytime just to look, but I was watching my paper, passing everything up, trying to get to the next 10th of the mile, and we made
Yeah.
it. Had a good time. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened on the way back. I might have slept
Yeah, right.
across something. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw your post, so good. I'm glad everything turned out well for you. But but try putting Google Maps in your phone, even around your house, you know, just to go to somewhere and see how it works.
I got a dumb phone.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
I'm going to have to upgrade.
I bet your wife has a smartphone, though.
Yes, she does.
See? How did I know that? Yeah, just put Google Maps in the phone and give it a try. I think you'll like it. I use it all the time. It's great
All
when it talks, and it gives you a heads up.
All right.
Yeah, my bees are doing very well for the first time in 2.5 years. They're just doing great. And I've said it before, but I look at what I'm feeding now and what I was feeding them before, and I thought I was doing okay. But, now I realize I was probably starving them to death. I thought I was giving them enough to eat, but they eat like crazy right now. Because it's just not a lot of things blooming here right now. So,
That's the number one thing. People come up here and they're all talking about now's when you feed 1-to-1. And I keep telling people, you go out there and your wife gives you beef broth in the morning and wants you to work hard all day, you just don't do it. But if you had steak and eggs, you could do a lot better. So I tell them, feed sugar, make it thick. It should look like peach syrup when you open a can, or thicker.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I have real pollen, not pollen substitute. It comes in like hard little grains, so I run that coffee grinder and I make like more of a powder out of it. And I mix that with sugar, so it's easier for them to get at. And I give them the heavy syrup, pollen, and sugar, and I throw a banana in there, and they eat a whole banana. Like, we get these little bananas, apple bananas. They eat a whole banana in 2 days, so they're just doing great,
You're putting them on a vegetarian diet.
Kinda. They should have diabetes, I figure, but I don't know how we got to look into that, why they don't have diabetes. We might benefit from that. All right, I'm going to let somebody else go. Go ahead.
Okay, let's see. Over to David. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was just going to mention something that Don said a few minutes ago. I saw him take a virgin queen right out of the incubator and carry her over to a hive, and she just crawled right in the hive off of his finger. And that's when I learned another lesson in beekeeping. I'm like, isn't there a time of acceptance? Because queens always come in little cages, and after 3 or 4 days they chew through the sugar and get through. And he said, she's a virgin queen. It doesn't have the odor, doesn't have the scent. They accept her right away. She's one of them. And so yeah, I did see him do that. It was pretty amazing to watch. And I'm like, oh, they're going to destroy her. They're going to kill her. And he's like, no, they're not. But yeah, that's just one of the little moments of the day that you just pick up something else that most people on here probably knew that, but it was brand new to me. It was a good day. Thank you.
Okay.
Greg, go ahead.
I had a question for Joel Bob. I was wondering if he thought he was going to get through the bee chat without everyone telling him happy birthday. And I heard E was going to sing happy birthday a cappella. So go ahead, E.
No, I'm good, thanks. He won't let me unmute him, so I can't sing. So
you were supposed to do it on a keyboard app on your phone here. You said you didn't have a keyboard. You're supposed to play me happy birthday, E.
Yeah, maybe later. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Over to Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Don, I want to ask you about releasing new queens.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually probably only done it 5 or 6 times, but I've never waited more than 24 hours. And sometimes as little as 12 hours. I go out there and I watch, I look, and I pick it up and I look at it, and I see, you know, are they sticking their tongue out like they're trying to feed her, they're trying to get to her, or are they angry and they're twisting their abdomen down like they're trying to sting her? What do you really need to wait 3 or 4 days? Do you recommend that before you release a queen? What's your view on it?
Here's the whole thing. A virgin queen doesn't have any smell to it. And the way the queens are bred now, they're bred more on hybrids. So they take a little longer to introduce. Now, a person can, you know, I deal with people are doing old ways. I got a guy comes up here and he's buying queens like crazy because he will not change his ways. He gets the queen, takes it up to his place, puts a nail through the candy, and then he comes back. He said the queen doesn't last very long. If you got anywhere from $25, $35 to $50 or more to throw on the ground and take a gamble that no one's going to come by and pick it up, I mean, you can do whatever you want. But I grew up the old ways, and as long as the queens are mated, I would leave them come out on their own. Let the bees get used to them. If you try to do it too quick, you run that risk. And I don't want to, even though I produce queens, I don't want to run that risk. Because, you know, you can get bees from 5 of our different yards, and basically they're going to have 5 different smells to them.
Yeah, well, over here, I don't get queens in those boxes with the cork and candy. You know, I get them in like I get them in just a roller cage with some attendants in there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I put them out there, and you know, in 12 to 24 hours, it just seems like you can figure out she's going to be okay or she's not going to be okay.
Well, even like that, you know, without candy in there, there's what they call the California mini cages. Now, they come with just a queen, and they come in a battery box, which the queen is in a little individual container by herself, and they shake about a half a pound of bees into a box. So it's called a battery box. And those bees are the attendant bees that'll feed them all across the board if you've got 10 or 15 or 20 in there. But the same thing is once you take it out of there and you put it into a hive, it's a totally different smell to those bees. You can leave that cage in there, and when they don't bend over like they're trying to sting through that wire, or if they look like they're chewing on the wire, sometimes they accept it, but not always. I always like to wait 2 to 3 days. I will wait that extra couple days because, you know, if you're doing 1 or 2, you can afford to lose, you know, a queen or 2. But if you're setting out 40 or 50 at $35 a piece, it adds up. And I would rather wait a day, because if you make a mistake, you're going to wait a week or 2 weeks or longer to get a queen. Right now, we got people begging for queens. Everybody's running way behind, 5, 6 weeks ahead of back orders on queens right now. We're pulling every queen we can get our hands on right now to make packages up.
Yeah, I get them in these plastic, like looks like a lady's hair roller, and you know, there's 6 or 7 attendants in there, but no, there's no candy in there, and you know, like I said, I think I've only got 5 or 6 queens in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah,
and that's what I've done. I don't think I left one more than 24 hours, but I've never had them kill one either. And
it's the risk that you're taking, though.
Yeah, I fully understand. That's why I asked them.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like these chats, you know, we'll get a lot of people, and maybe Dennis can have great luck with the way he's introducing a queen. And then we get someone who's a new beekeeper, you know, and they listen to that and they try it, and then they get mad because it didn't work for them. Everybody's going to have a different level of experience, and everybody's bees are going to be different. Bees in Texas now are a little more reluctant to accept new queens, especially down South Texas. You know, so those. You
know, it's another thing that I was thinking is after they have it, when they know at least 4 hours, 6 hours, or even 8 hours, when they know, wow, there's no queen here anymore. I think naturally they're going to be happy to have one.
Well, by that same token, if you don't put a queen in and you wait 5 days, there's no young larvae in there, they're not going to make a decent queen. They will more likely accept a queen in there quicker than if you open a hive, pull a queen out, throw a queen back in there, or if you kill a queen and put it in within 24 hours. They will accept it, but your risk is different, you know. It's a higher risk the quicker you put it in. Once they know there's no possibility to make a replacement, then they'll accept what you give them.
Yeah, because they really are smart. You know, that's one thing. They really are smart. And, you know, I think everybody knows, unless there's some new people in here, that I actually live in Thailand. I've lived here 14 years. And the cost of living here is significantly cheaper across the board. It's another reason I like it here. My money goes 3 times as far as if I was in the United States. I buy nice mated queens. These queens are doing good. They're laying like crazy. I pay the equivalent of $3.50 for a queen, mated queen. And they don't sell packages here. They don't sell like 3-pound packages, you know. A nuke, a 5-frame nuke here is probably the equivalent of around $60 or $70 for a 5-frame nuke. And that's, you know, they give you the box as well. And you know what I've done sometimes is I go and buy, I just want some other frames of bees. I don't need a queen. I don't want a nuke. I just want to build up my hive. And they'll sell you a real nice frame of bees with, you know, covered on both sides with brood, honey, whatever's on that frame for the equivalent of, that's about $8 for a frame. Buy a whole frame of bees for like $8. They don't have 3-pound packages here. Okay, I just wanted to ask what you thought about releasing queens. I'll let someone else go. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, last question for tonight is Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Hey, Don, I was just going to let you know, I let that queen, I just pull the cork on the sugar in and let them eat their way through. If it takes 5 days, I don't push them.
That's what I do.
I just feel safer that way.
Here's another thing too. Now, if you're getting a queen and you put it in, even on a package, let's say you put a package in on drawed comb, the queen could come out quicker. But if you have all new foundation in there, then it's a whole different story. If the queen gets out and there's not enough, if you're not feeding them enough, not enough sugar water, watered down water is what it is, and they don't get enough protein or carbohydrates to draw the wax, that queen can leave. Just like for top bar hive, they rub wax on there. If the queen doesn't get out and you're not feeding them, they're not going to stay. As soon as the queen gets out, she'll fly, even though she's mated. The thing keeps her from flying away is because she gets big and she's just heavy. She can't fly, but she'll stay if it's drawed. That's the biggest thing that, you know, people putting hives in there and try to get that queen out too quick. And feeding them 1-to-1 ain't going to do it. You got to feed them some sugar so they'll draw that frame out.
I agree with you. All righty. Thank you.
Okay, then that'll do it for tonight. So thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Easter. And Don, I hear you're going to be coloring bee eggs tomorrow.
This is the first year that we won't be doing any of that. I'm eating out. And,
very nice.
My wife is not going to cook for anybody this year. We're going to relax.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
All right.
Appreciate everybody showing up. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. So have your questions, and I guess we'll have some after the chat. If somebody wants to stick around, I'll stick around for a few minutes and won't ask a lot of questions. You can talk about me when I leave, because the chat will probably stay open a half an hour, an hour.
Actually, we usually average about an hour.